For an update on future plans involving JD McDonough on the WWE main roster, Steve Carey of Ringside News wrote, "We can confirm that JD is a very promising talent and everyone in WWE notices it. We were told there are no immediate plans for him, and the company is also not going to debut him without a long-range plan because too many people get lost in the system because of that." Touching on the struggles of creating his own legacy separate from his father's, Cody Rhodes said this on ESPN Radio. "A big secret there is when it comes to second or third generation wrestlers, this trickles down to any athlete where your parent came before you and did something great. The thing you don't always say is, I want to honor them, but also you want to be better than they were. Not in a negative way. You want to take it a step further. For me, winning the Royal Rumble. My dad passed away in 2015. It's so unique that he's not been able to see it, but I feel like he's still here with me. To be able to do some things that he never touched, Dusty did everything. To be able to win the Royal Rumble, to go to WrestleMania and be the main event of the biggest thing in wrestling, I'm blessed and lucky, but I'm still on the hunt." Talking to Metro about the return of Bray Wyatt to WWE, The Undertaker said, "They need to back Bray's character up to the original character, get away from, they've kind of got themselves booked into a situation where it's kind of difficult for him to have matches. I think the original Wyatt family Bray, that's the money. I got to work with Bray at Mania the year after I got concussed in the Brock match. I worked with Bray. I think a lot of him, and I like what he's doing. I think they just have to figure out how to. They need to back it up, I think. His promos and then his ability to work. He's an incredible worker, but he's not getting the opportunity to do it. I hope the best for him. I really do think a lot of him. We'll see what happens there." Giving an update on Johnny Gargano in WWE, Sean Ross Sapp reported that Johnny Gargano hasn't been seen on TV for quite a while, leading many to speculate on his status. Fightful was given an answer. On Monday, there was a report noting that Johnny Gargano was still injured and wouldn't be competing at this year's SummerSlam. While we can't confirm his status for SummerSlam or the status of the originally planned DIY angle, we can confirm that Gargano is no longer injured and was factored in to recent creative plans in WWE. Ringside News added that it was also noted that Johnny Gargano was backstage at the recent WWE Raw in Cleveland in his hometown. Gargano was originally scheduled to be on the show, however, creative plans were adjusted and he wasn't used. Gargano had experienced a recurring shoulder injury, but has been fine for quite some time. As Jerry the King Lawler has been going through health issues, suffering a stroke last year, this was said about his set appearance for T-Mart Promotions in Charlotte, North Carolina. Unfortunately, this update is not good news. After waiting and holding out hope, I was informed today that due to continued health issues, Jerry the King Lawler has to cancel. Jerry was someone we really wanted to be at the event. We had tried last year, but he was already booked to be somewhere else in 2022. I had made it a point to get Jerry booked very early this year, and it was before he got sick. We are very sorry for those that wanted to meet the King. We know he was a major want for a lot of people. We have to understand that Jerry's health comes first, and unfortunately he has to pull out and is just unable to travel and do these types of things right now. All of us wish the King a speedy recovery and that eventually he will make his return to what he loves doing. Anyone that ordered autograph or photo op tickets for the King, you can get a full refund or use it for other items you may want. I'll be reaching out to you all over the next few days. Talk about the introduction of the World Heavyweight title. The champion, Seth Rollins, said this to Ryan Satin, taking a shot at the undisputed Universal Champ Roman Reigns. If Roman was doing what I'm doing, there wouldn't really be a need for a secondary championship. There wouldn't be a need for another World Heavyweight Championship on Raw because we would have somebody who was doing those things, and like you said, it would give direction to the characters of the show. It would give directions to the show itself, but because of the route he has chosen and what he wants to do with his schedule and his title reign is not what I'm doing, somebody's got to fill that void. We did our best with the US Championship for a while while to do that, but it never really felt like a World Heavyweight Championship, so there's got to be that person, that spot for everyone to get to and try and fight for, and I'm very happy to be that carrot that's dangling there, and I think it's a good thing. And again, if Roman was doing all of this stuff and defending the title all over the place, then we wouldn't have all these problems. It appears that an AEW star is no longer with the promotion, with it said that Brian Pillman Jr.'s AEW deal has expired. PWInsider.com has confirmed. The second generation star has exited the company. He last wrestled for AEW in May. In some unfortunate news, former WWE star Mike Halleck has passed away at the age of 55, as Eric Sims of ESS Promotions wrote. "I'm sad to report that Mike Halleck, who played the character Mentor, has passed away. Thoughts and prayers go out to his family. We had Mike booked for 90s Wrestling Con September 30th and a full weekend of bookings that weekend. Rest in peace, Mentor." For an interview with Out of Character, Seth Rollins talked about how some stars on NXT don't want to make the move to the main roster, saying, "It was very cool for me to go back and have that moment. One of the things I talk about is helping the younger talent and pushing the industry forward. The opportunity was presented to me to go down to NXT, and I haven't wrestled a match on the show in over 10 years. Obviously, it moved from Full Sail to the Performance Center, and the look, the feel, and the vibe was totally different, and it had gone through so many different iterations over the years, but it's still NXT. I cut a little promo after the show, and it didn't really dawn on me that it would feel sentimental until after, when I got out there and I felt the audience and I felt the connection. I hadn't wrestled in front of a crowd that small and intimate in a very long time. There is something special about wrestling in front of an intimate crowd like that in a small space. You'll see big bands do that. Go back to these small bars and pack them out. There is something about that where you get a different experience as opposed to doing it in an arena or stadium. It's a lot more personal. It really hit me when I went out there, and you could really interact with any person in any seat. It was an awesome experience. Braun Breaker was a hell of an opponent. I was really happy to get down there and get in the ring with him and chit chat with other guys and girls and see what they are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. It was cool. Felt a lot of hunger to get to the next level. I was happy to see that. We were going through a period with NXT where there was a lot of complacency and people talking about, "I'd rather stay in NXT, I don't want to go to the main roster." That always rubbed me the wrong way. When I went down there this past time, I felt a different energy, and I felt people were excited to come to the main roster and take their careers to the next level. That got me hyped. In that same interview, Seth Rollins mentioned how he held resentment over not being in the main event of WrestleMania 39. Jealousy is not necessarily the right word. At the end of the day, it's show business, you know? That's how it works sometimes. It's not always a meritocracy as much as we would love it to be. It's just not. For me, I took the Logan Paul story and ran with it. I knew we were going to have an absolute blast because the characters were so diametrically opposed in the audience's eyes. You had one guy, Logan Paul, that the audience simply detested, and I had just spun into a guy that everyone was really happy to see every week. Anytime you put in the amount of work that I put in last year while somebody else gets the top spot, if you were competitive and you want to be the best, you're just going to have resentment. It's just going to be there, and it's healthy, I think. Speaking of NXT, it appears that the tag team of Brutus and Julius Creed will not be going to the main roster anytime soon, with Dave Meltzer pointing out they were under masks on NXT, saying on Wrestling Observer Radio, when they're walking away, the last two are Brutus and Julius. Totally hidden. You're not supposed to know who they are, but it wasn't so hidden because Ivy gave them a look and everything like that, but that's what it was. So they're definitely coming back with, I don't know if they're coming back under masks to avert and avoid the loser leaves town to come back under masks and do that gimmick, but they are not going to the main roster. So when there were people there who were assured that in fact they were not going to the main roster, and I thought, it's WWE. They lie to people to hide stuff all the time, but they were telling the truth on this one. Despite her release from WWE, former NXT Women's Champion Mandy Rose said this during a Q&A on social media about her current pro wrestling career and possibly retiring. I don't know if retires is the right word, but I'm not doing it right now. I don't know about the future. Pretty busy right now, doing a lot of things, and all is well. So, asked about her previous romance angle with Otis in WWE, Mandy Rose said during that same Q&A, "I know, wasn't it like the greatest thing ever? I just really wish it had a better ending, but what are you gonna do?" Reflecting on her walkout from WWE and if she could see herself collaborating with Mercedes Moné down the line, Trinity told the New York Post, "I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else other than her, whatever that is. I'll always do what's best for her, what's best for me, and what's best for the business. If it's something that comes up that makes sense for both of us, hell yeah. Me and her, we just had each other, it felt like. Other than Tamina, Bayley checking in on us regularly, that was it. We just had each other going through that. Nobody understands the magnitude of what happened and what really went on and why we feel the way we feel and where we are but me and her and the people that were involved that day. It just goes to show how real our friendship is and how real all of this is." When it comes to rumors of Ronda Rousey returning to UFC after she is done with WWE later in the year, UFC fighter Chelsea Chandler told MMA Junkie, "I've been hearing Ronda is coming back. I've heard she's coming back at 145. You never know. If I go out there and put on the performance I plan on putting on, I'll welcome her to 145. I think it would be a great fight. It has been a long time for her and things change, people get better, and I think people are on to her one-trick pony armbar. Money talks, and she would bring eyes to the sport again. I feel like her time in WWE is starting to go down, so I'd like to see it." Ariel Helwani would report on this issue through MMA Fighting, saying, "Ronda Rousey is not considering a UFC comeback, I'm told. No truth to the rumors started yesterday." Touching on the possibility of Bray Wyatt being a part of the SummerSlam Premium Live event, Steve Carrier of Ringside News wrote, "WWE has a lot of plans in place for SummerSlam, but we have been able to confirm that sadly Bray Wyatt doesn't have a spot on the card. At this time, there is still no creative plans for Bray Wyatt's WWE return. He is not medically cleared yet." Responding to critics that claim his in-ring style is unsafe, Kenny Omega said this to Sports Illustrated. "There are people who want to complain and put themselves on a pedestal by saying what we did was dangerous. Well, you think? So I've been asked, why did we do it? It made sense in the match and evoked emotion, and we both knew I would end up coming out of the move unscathed. Is there a risk? Sure, there's always a risk. Look at the way Mike Tyson boxed. His style was so dangerous. He stayed so close to his opponent. What was he doing boxing in style? Shouldn't he have fought more stick and move and waited for the counterpunch? Wouldn't that have been better for his brain? Didn't he understand how dangerous it was? But that wasn't what made him Mike Tyson. Don't tell me not to wrestle the way I know how to wrestle. Is there a risk? Was there a risk when Mike Tyson was fighting within inches of space between another championship level boxer throwing power punches? Of course, but Tyson was confident in his abilities and he knew he was the best. So don't tell Mike Tyson how to box and don't tell Tyson Smith how to wrestle. You aren't even close to being qualified. Just shut the F up." Revealing why he is not going to be taking any more bookings, former WWE star Val Venus wrote on Facebook, "Hello wrestling fans, just a heads up, I will finish up obligations on my next 2 appearances. I won't say when or where until the day of, as the LGBTQ+++ XYZ nut jobs like to threaten promoters for booking me. As of today, I will no longer be taking any further public bookings for the foreseeable future. Tired of being booked and then canceled due to my political positions. Thanks." Mentioning a procedure that she had prior to Monday Night Raw this week, Becky Lynch told USA Today Sports, "When I landed from London, I had to go to the ER and had to get a cyst removed. Then had to get that redone on Friday, but was in the ring, fine, ready to go by Monday." It appears a former WCW star, Brad Kane, better known as Lodi, was able to survive a heart attack following a professional wrestling match, as Ringside News writes. According to a report by Queen City News, Lodi admitted that he initially ignored the signs that something was wrong. However, realizing the severity of the situation, he drove himself to a nearby hospital despite feeling unwell. During the 52-minute drive, Lodi's mind was filled with concerns about causing harm to others on the road, recalling the tragic death of wrestling legend Macho Man Randy Savage. Upon reaching the hospital, Lodi received a startling diagnosis. Doctors discovered that 2 of his arteries were completely blocked, and another, commonly referred to as the Widowmaker, was 90% blocked. As a result, he underwent a 5-hour quintuple bypass surgery, which proved to be life-saving. Speaking about the ordeal, Lodi expressed his gratitude, crediting God for being at his side. "I'm like, God, just don't let me hurt anyone, because we all know how Macho Man Randy Savage died. I was doubled over and driving on one hand and trying to keep my eyes on the road." Upon arriving at the hospital, Lodi learned that 2 of his arteries were 100% blocked and a third, commonly known as the Widowmaker, was 90% blocked. As such, he had no choice but to undergo a 5-hour quintuple bypass surgery, which ultimately saved his life. Despite the scare, the 52-year-old is determined to continue on with his wrestling career. "I know God was with me through all of this," Lodi said. "I'm going to rehab and work on getting me better." Speaking about the leak of AEW's banned moves list, it was noted that Bryan Danielson faking a seizure caused it to be included here, as Dave Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer Radio. I actually have heard from a lot of guys. I asked a lot of guys, but it's like, the story's absolutely true. You know, I mean, everything that you read and everything like that. I mean, there's a list and all this, but like, it's really, like, aside from the fact Bryan Danielson did the convulsing thing once, and nobody really thought was a good idea. So it will never be done again. Whether they had a rule against it or not, it still wasn't going to be done again. Also, the spitting thing, I saw the big spit spot that I forget whether it was Jay or Juice, but I remember it was all over Dax Harwood's body on Saturday night. It's really nothing like the rules of the band stuff have been in play. They haven't been written down, but those are all rules that have already been in place since like the beginning, since the first time Chris Nowinski and Tony Khan talked, and Chris Nowinski talked to everybody. It's like those things that you see as banned, they've always been. It's not like this is something new. Staying on the topic of the banned moves list, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful noted that there were several AEW talent who didn't know about the banned moves list until we published a report about it. One wrestler noted to us that you won't see any changes that would be noticeable, since all of those things that you have to alert the producers about were all things that talent would already been telling the producers about to begin with. As Brian Pillman Jr.'s AEW contract expired recently, Ringside News would write that, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer noted that Brian Pillman Jr. was training at the Performance Center on Thursday. That said, it was not noted whether he will be joining Vince McMahon's company. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful would add that, when we asked WWE sources, they confirmed that as of now, Pillman had not been signed, but was working out at the facility. We're told that what he's doing resembles a bit of a get-to-know-you meeting, and that WWE had immediate interest when he became available. We're told that things regarding a lot of the people they bring in are being kept close to the vest, but that Pillman was in plain sight of many others at the Performance Center. A WWE star was granted his release as he did not want to work under Vince McMahon. WrestlingNews.co writes, PW Insider reported this week about Eric Young possibly being the person who returns to Impact Wrestling to team up with Scott D'Amore tonight at Slammiversary. Young had been under WWE contract since 2022. Fightful Select reported that Young spoke with Triple H last year about returning to the ring. Young has said in interviews that he felt like he had a lot more to give as a wrestler rather than in a backstage capacity, and he expressed issues with working for Vince McMahon. He also talked about WWE's system being broken, but that was before McMahon stepped down last year. With Triple H running creative, Young was brought back last November but never did anything of note on TV, and he would ask for his release just months later. Fightful noted that Young asked to be let go in April 2023, and it was granted. His 90-day non-compete ended last week, which makes it possible for him to appear tonight at Slammiversary. Fightful cited WWE sources saying that Young did not want to work under Vince McMahon McMahon after he returned to the company in an official capacity. Young cited moral, creative, and personal reasons for why he didn't want to work under McMahon. Many of you will recall that Young's previous stint on the main roster was lackluster, primarily because McMahon did not see much in the Sanity faction. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.